Hey, data streamer.
Hey, Gio, what's up?
Hey. All
Yo.
right, this time let's go deeper. Let's go a bit more philosophical.
Oh.
Hard word. But hey, since the internet, since online, since digital,
Yeah.
we all have this second like persona, this character, a new mask
Yeah.
that is you're acting like someone else on the internet. Although you're setting up an account somewhere and suddenly you feel like or you act or some people act like a complete different person than in
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty funny. It's like everybody does it. And they've always done it. Which is interesting,
uh,
you know.
I want to go back to a like philosophical thing or quote from Japan. Is
Japan.
that do you know this saying that everybody wears three masks?
I'm aware of the concept of the mask in Japanese culture, but I'm not aware of the three
All right.
masks.
All right, let me get it to you. So one mask you wear towards the outside world, like unknown people, acquaintances or colleagues. The second mask you wear for your family or your friends,
Mm-hmm.
close friends, and the last mask is uh, that's the only ego that you only know yourself.
Oh.
But yeah,
Okay.
nowadays there's a fourth mask
Yeah.
online.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Nowadays, there's a lot more masks, and it's pretty interesting how like everybody does it. So that kind of says something about a society, about how yeah, how you have to kind of lie to people to kind of stay normal. You know what I mean? You can't just you can't just be yourself. You can't just do what you want to do or whatever, because people have expectations and whatever, and then it's like, oh my god, I can't believe what they did, blah blah blah. Yeah, so it's always weird, but there's also like this other thing where it's like people also have an idea of who and what they are, you know and they're kind of I don't really want to say their ideal self, but more like their uh, either subconscious or conscious self. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very deep. Yeah.
So it's like, how do you see yourself, you know, in this world? And that's how that kind of influences how people act, you know? So where you have like, I haven't really seen it anywhere else, but you have in the Matrix the idea of the residual self image. That is like the it's kind of Morpheus explains it to Neo where in the movie, but it's kind of like this thing where like you have an image in your head of what you're like and what you look like and what you're like, and then the kind of the matrix can read that. It can read it and like project it into the matrix. So um your matrix self can be different from your real self. you know the matrix dealt in a lot of identity stuff because the writers were trans, so there's a
Oh.
lot there. Yeah, the Wachowskis are now sisters and not brothers. um
Oh, okay.
so there's a lot of trans allegories in the matrix, like we talked about in the earlier episode about gender and cyberpunk and stuff. Switch was a character that was originally meant to be a male in the real world, and inside the matrix a female. They cut that because of course the 90s, like wow, I mean, the 90s they went insane when like Ellen DeGeneres came out as gay on her TV show, and not in real life, like it was like Ellen DeGeneres was playing a gay character, but she wasn't. She didn't come out as gay in real life, so that was like a big thing. So that was already like a massive thing. So let alone having a transgender character in a big mainstream production, that would not happen. They did not let it happen. But still, Switch is if you ask the Wachowskis, Switch is a trans character. You know, whatever the final movie is, Switch is a trans character. Uh, Male in real life, female in the Matrix. Residual self image of Switch is a female. So the idea would be that if you hook up any trans person to the Matrix, they would pop out as the gender they identify as. You know, that's the idea, and that's kind of like uh but the switch, that's like the most extreme example so that you understand it. But residual self image happens to everybody has it. I always kind of thought about this concept. I didn't really look it up if other if it was talked about in other places. But it's like, but I know they didn't really talk about it in other like cyberpunk stuff. I haven't really seen it. I've only seen the Matrix talk about it. But you know, correct me if I'm wrong. But I haven't really seen it because most cyberpunk deals with like the technocrats, the corpos trying to, you know, screw us over and like steal our money and whatever and like rule our whatever. You know what I mean. Most cyberpunk, there's very few cyberpunks that like kind of deal with like the psychological things about identity and stuff. I mean, some of them do, but it's not in the same way that the Matrix did. So it's kind of hard to say what other areas or other what do you call it, franchises said about it, but you could kind of see it somewhere, and you could kind of notice it yourself in real life because it may be a concept in the majors, but personally I've actually experienced it myself in real life. And a lot of people probably do experience it themselves in real life. I'm sure you've also experienced it in real life, like
How do you
uh
mean with
like
real
like
life?
yeah, like in your real life, the residual self image when you're uh,
Ah, okay, sorry.
like when you're like, the best example is when you're like kind of like you wake up in the morning, you're kind of getting ready to go, and then you look in the mirror, and then you're like kind of like, huh, and then you realize that you look slightly different than what you actually thought you looked like. You know what I mean? I mean, everybody's had
Wow.
that. Everybody has had that before. Maybe you gained some weight that you didn't notice, and now suddenly it's like, oh shit, there's this
Yeah.
what my I'm fatter than I, huh? You know what I mean? That kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Maybe like your
Late. Yeah.
eyes, yeah. Maybe like your eyes look kind of off. Sometimes you have like, you wake up, you're kind of like fucked up. I don't know what happened. You know, sometimes I have that. It's like my eyes are kind of weird when I wake up, and they like kind of like look off, and I was like, huh? Oh shit! Wait a minute, yeah. And then I kind of like rub my eyes, and then I wash my face, and it's like, okay, now it's starting to get back to normal. You know, that kind of stuff. So that's like when your residual self image confronts you, or you're confronted with it in a real world, and you're like, and it's like, oh shit, it's like this thing, like, oh. But the funny thing is, like, it's like actually a thing in the Matrix, because when you see the people in real life in that movie, they all look sloppy. I mean, like for example, Trinity, she in the Matrix, she looks chiseled. Her face is like kind of like really shaped, like really, you know, it's like really sharp lines around her face. That's what she looks like, really like sharp and everything. And then like in the real world, she like her her features are more rounded. You know, she doesn't have all that crazy makeup on, so she like suddenly looks different. It's like completely, they look completely different next to each other. You know. So
Yeah.
yeah, they really did a good job on that. But yeah, it's like something you really experience in real life. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Gaining more weight and looking in the mirror like that. That's it's a really good example. Yeah.
Yeah, this is, you're like confronted with it suddenly, you know, with your residual self image. Yeah, but I mean that's like your normal thing, you know. But when you're talking about like online stuff, that then you're getting into the kind of crazy stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah. because especially when you when you're dating online,
Yeah.
like you're having a conversation with a girl or a man, probably a long distance relationship,
Hmm.
and then talking back and forth, and you also kind of created an identity towards each other, right? But also trying to stay yourself,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there might be a chance that you meet up with each other.
Yes, of course. So you have to be kind of yourself. So this is the
Yeah.
interesting thing about like online communication. It kind of increases or the whole self image thing. It kind of it amplifies it. Suddenly suddenly you're not like tucking in your tummy a bit more, you're not like folding your pants or like putting your pants in a certain way or wearing a certain jacket. No, you're suddenly creating a complete new personality. Just it just happens. So the question is like, this is this your real self image, or are you trying to meet expectations, creating another self image on top of your original self image? And so like online discourse and online communication somehow makes people like do this a lot more extreme, and like social media really shows how extreme these things can get. It's pretty insane where you see some of these stories.
Especially the trolls around it on the internet.
Sorry, the what?
The trolls.
Oh, trolls. Yeah, trolling is it's like, yeah, trolling. Yeah, I mean that's like a humor thing, where
Yeah.
you can make jokes that you're not allowed to do in real life. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
so it's like the perfect place to do it. That
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So it's also part of it.
Be-
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, because you won't get punched in your face and anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like whatever. So it's you could just say random bullshit and like whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
what's the worst they could do? Ban your random account. Who cares? You make a new account. Who cares? Like, you know.
But that's the interesting part. Okay, as you mentioned, we were already like living in the matrix
Yeah,
with another identity, right?
yeah,
But as you mentioned before, this is already happening like maybe in the dark ages, and probably way before that people put out another identity of themselves.
yeah. I mean,
But
except yeah. Oh,
before we get to that, please support us by liking and
oh yeah,
subscribing. Yeah.
yeah. Exactly. Please support us. Yes. Yeah, but yeah, the dark ages. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's pretty much how like how famous people back in the day, they used to curate their entire identity. So they I mean, if we're talking about the medieval times, dark ages, blah blah blah. They would just like they would have bards write songs about them. Like we're talking about the rich people, the nobility, those guys. They would have heralds spread stories, have bards write songs, have these amazing artists, or craftsmen build statues to them,
Oh, yeah. Or
paintings,
paint
whatever.
yeah, painting, which is like your
Yeah,
profile picture.
yeah, it's your profile picture. Exactly, it's your profile picture. That literally you got a guy to draw this thing for, and they always kind of tucked him in a bit, like shaved off a few kilograms here and there, like made them their posture a bit better. They always
Yeah.
did some improvements. You know what I mean?
Uh, and the songs you talk about from the Bard, yeah, that's like the dark ages Wikipedia.
Yeah, yeah. So the bards would go around singing songs about some kind of thing some noble did or whatever, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a lot of these things you could kind of put them under marketing or whatever, or like propaganda to like kind of like keep the people on your side, that kind of stuff. You could kind of say it's that kind of stuff, but it's still the image being portrayed is still the person, the nobles or the knights or whoever they're talking about in these things. It's their image. Like they want to be known as whatever, they want to this, they want to that. And you know, and that is kind of part of it, although it's more overt. But residual self image was more subtle. It was way more subtle than just overtly saying, "Yes, I am this guy, I am that thing." It was like subconscious. You don't know really about it, but then you're confronted with it. You know what I mean? Um, so it's like I would imagine if the noble who had their portrait painted by, I don't know, say a Rembrandt, whatever, just to say some guy. Um, After a few years of looking at that portrait, that they would look at themselves in a mirror, then it would be like, holy shit, like, oh, you know, they would, their self image would be confronted with the reality that they're older and what have you. Maybe they lost some teeth because that was fairly common back in the day. They lost teeth, whatever. They have syphilis. Their skin is peeling. Who the freak, that happens. That's why they had all the makeup on because they had syphilis and shit. That's crazy.
Damn.
Um,
Oh,
yeah.
but it's
So
so interesting that
yeah,
how the humankind is always been like, I would say, yeah, in a way, okay, quotation marks, obsessed with creating another identity from
yeah,
already long ago,
yeah,
or at least bringing out their identity into the world. So I'm really wondering, right? So now for us, it feels like social media and your internet
yeah,
persona is is already like really normal. It feels
yeah,
normal,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So how would that evolve?
Yeah, I mean, this is where we're getting into the dangerous territory because before social media, your people were more, let's say, aware of the barrier between life, real life, and digital life, and the online and the cyber. Um, uh, it was common to have a nickname. You did not even talk to your family or friends about your cyber life. That was not a thing unless your friends were part of that cyber life. But normally, that was like a completely different thing that you did, whatever, back in the day. But now that social media is so pervasive and so ubiquitous everywhere, there's a blurring happening between cyber life and real life. So, what you're having now is that there's a lot of um, behavior that you would normally have on the cyber that is spilling into the real life. You know, behavior that you would not have if you did not have cyber life in real life. One of the best examples is the the nuisance streamers in Japan. You know,
Oh my god.
20 years ago you would not have that. There's no way. But now because we're having a spillage of cyber trolling into real life, we're having these nuisance streamers pop up suddenly, because they can also monetize it and make money, you know, that kind of stuff. So that's like one of the more extreme examples, but there's a lot of that stuff happening. Or for example, like internet talk spilling over into real life. People are suddenly using slang that is an internet thing in real life that used to never happen. There's We did not like you did not say lol, zom, omg. All of these things you did not say them back in the day. I mean, people don't say them anymore, but in real life. But still, people are saying the equivalent of those things in real life. And it's like, okay, people are say yeet in real life. Yeet, it's a thing people say, but that's like an internet slang thing. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So it's like there's this spillage of the cyber into the real life, and it's having kind of detrimental effects on people because now suddenly you're the anonymous trolley kind of prankster persona that's kind of like funny online is not funny in real world most of the time because those jokes aren't funny in real world. Those jokes are usually kind of like annoying, But when you're like reading them on a forum or just on a YouTube video, they are funny, haha, funny, he said it, but in real life, it's just being an annoying idiot, you know. So you're getting this weird thing where these people are just like kind of screwing themselves over in the real world because they're like doing these online things in the real world. It's real weird, you know?
But yeah, the internet and everything in tech is still evolving.
Yeah, it is. It
So I'm really
is.
wondering. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is
it.
interesting to keep track on how internet identities are evolving as well during during yeah,
I
up
mean,
until 10 years, 20 years. So
yeah, I mean, the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, really like, accelerated a lot of these things. A lot of these people suddenly, suddenly now companies are dealing with people's online personas at the companies themselves. You know. So it's like really weird to see how people started behaving on Zoom calls. And how people became a bit more trolly and whatever, and how people kind of like started acting more nonchalant at work. They didn't care as much, that kind of stuff. So the pandemic really accelerated a lot of these things because now people they because during that time, for those 2 years, the yeah let me just say, normies cannot handle the life I've had for the last 30 years. What happened during the pandemic made me realize that my lifestyle was toxic to 99% of the people. you know I have been chronically online since 1999. I have been an internet troll. I have been everything you can imagine, whatever, on the online. I have had it's like, it's like that old PlayStation commercial where they go through the gamers and they're like, I have conquered worlds and I have blah 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 and I have commanded armies, that kind of stuff. Like my internet life is like this whole thing, and normies can't handle it. They need to be out and about and around people. So the corona thing kind of screwed them over a lot. When, for me, corona was like, I literally changed nothing in my life during corona.
yeah.
It had zero effect to anything that I did. I was like, okay, wow, I can't go out and meet people. Wow, that's I don't give a shit. It was like, okay, so what? I already do that anyways. Who cares? Like, it's like, oh, I have to stay online at the computer all day. Wow. How terrible. I've been doing that since I was 15. I don't give a shit. It's like this. So like that was kind of confrontational towards me a bit, because I was like, wow, is my lifestyle really that bad? Because I saw these people like completely breaking down when they couldn't do whatever they
Yeah.
normally do. And like, I was like, wow, dude. I was sitting here like, hey, welcome
Yeah,
to my
people are
life.
still suffering.
Yeah,
People are still
yeah,
suffering now.
it's amazing. Suffering. It was like, I was like, wow, whatever. I changed nothing for me, nothing, literally nothing. The pandemic went by. I had like, my life is still the same. I have no idea. So it's like, yeah. So the online life that is kind of spilling into into the real world, and people's like internet personas and residual self images, there's like kind of spilling over into real life. It's having this weird effect on normies that really can't handle it. It's kind of like this whole confrontation where like the masks that we talked about earlier are actually there to protect other people from yourself. And when people are confronted with those masks, they can't, I don't know why they react like that. They can't handle that a person is being themselves somehow, you know, and they can't confront that they themselves are maybe being more themselves, and then they like break down. I don't know. It's really weird. It's a very weird situation that the pandemic really accelerated, and all this cyber technology that we're having now. I mean, you look at VR chat. VR chat is like completely insane when you're talking about like self image stuff,
Oh
furries,
yeah.
that kind of stuff. There's a lot of furry stuff in VR chat. those kinds of things. So it's like, yeah, I really wonder where this is all gonna go in the future. But yeah,
Yeah.
the mix between real life and the cyber, it's like serial experiments lane. It's, yeah, really difficult, really difficult.
Yeah. And I mean, like VR chat is really also still like for us how I feel it. It's still like version 1, right?
Oh yeah,
But in VR, and that'll
yeah,
evolve.
yeah,
And I mean, it's also just a matter of time that a new type of VR chat will come and
yeah, yeah, exactly.
and
I,
dominate.
I mean, you already have the full body suits there. Some people have like entire rooms dedicated to VR chat so that they can walk around in VR chat and not have to like just sit, so they can actually interact like normal. You know, people are already doing that. Like the more people that have more money, entire room set up to so that you can walk around the maps. Then you don't feel the motion sickness that you can have with you can feel when you're in VR. Uh, you know, but yeah, it is indeed still version one, and
Yeah.
but people can already express themselves completely freely and completely, yeah, in a way that they can't normally. So it's like the self image is really really powerful there. Really
Yeah,
amplified.
but that's in the West, right? I mean, narrative says that in communist countries, you are limited on the internet, right?
Well, it depends on which country. But I mean, I don't think
Let's say,
they're. Huh? Like
let's say,
China.
yeah, China, yeah,
I mean, I think in China they probably have an equivalent of VR chat. I wouldn't be surprised, but of course the Chinese internet is behind the firewall, so it's like
yeah,
we can't really reach it from the outside, and they can't really reach it from the inside. So it's like, yeah, it's really like the question really is how much they are affected by this. But I think in China they're probably even more affected by it, because the government really, what do you call it? Um,
well, the narrative says like that they also decide on who what kind of personality you have.
yeah, yeah, sure.
Basically.
Yeah, I mean the government really determines a lot of what happens there, and the kind of personalities that they really accept. Indeed, so they have their whole social credit system there. So you really have to kind of like toe the line, as they say, over there. So you can't really have like this kind of online persona that kind of like, like over here people have like these really abrasive online personas. So you can't have that over there. I mean, Japan has always been the number one for this kind of stuff. I mean, the modern day online persona internet thing, I mean, started in Japan. It all started. The modern day internet troll, the anonymous thing, everything that all started in Japan. I mean, Hiroyuki, when he created Nichanaru, the idea was that the idea is basically residual self image, because the concept of Nichanaru is that, in Japanese society, because you were dealing with the masks of all these people.
Yeah.
If you're anonymous, there is no mask, and then you can finally have an honest conversation with people. So the entire concept of Nichanaru is about the self-image and the mask, and about tearing down that barrier between people. Of course, the concept was taken by Western people, Americans, and they created 4chan from it, which then, I mean, the rest is history. 4chan turned into this anonymous internet army that kind of went ahead and like did all these things. Their first mainstream success was against Scientology, and then keep just you know the rest. I mean, the internet knows the rest. But it's like, um, the concept of the anonymous self, that is only self-image, only pure, like, ego, only pure, what a person feels and wants, nothing else, just that. That's anonymous. It's like completely disconnected from a human, just an online entity, just sitting there thinking, feeling, and whatever, doing whatever it does, just expressing itself, self image constantly. That's the entire thing about anonymous, because you remove the human, and all you're left with is just the image. So they can be anything they want to be. That's and that was very powerful when it started in Japan. And I mean, it took over the world, the idea, which is why there's also this backlash to it. I mean, I fully support the idea of the anonymous, of the online amorphous being that is not necessarily a human, just an ego on the internet. I fully support that idea, but it's like the normies can't handle it, because the way normies do, like for example, responsibility is attached to a person, to an identity. And if you're dealing with an image, if you're dealing with a self image, you don't necessarily have an identity. It's just a self image. It's just like this amorphous being that kind of exists. So it's hard to that's why they a lot of these things are like, oh, they're just anonymous trolls. Anonymous troll used as a pejorative to like maybe somehow force these people to take on an actual like face or mask, so that they can finally bring them to heel, and like bring them to have them take responsibility for whatever they said. That's the way I feel it's happening, with this online discourse about like these when people talk about trolls. It's always I always find it funny, to see, you know.
And on that note, dear listeners and viewers, what do you think about your online identity? Please let us know in the comments below. Join our Discord so we can have a chat or discussion about topics like this. Thank you for listening, and we will see you in the next episode. Like and
Yeah.
subscribe for support.
Yeah, thank you. See you next time.
Bye bye.